Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another game review. And today we are going to be talking about Valheim. So, Valheim is a Viking survival game. If you do not know, it has been popping off recently, ever since it released on the 2nd of February, I think. It has already sold 3 million copies on Steam and is currently shattering a shit ton of records on Steam. So, good on you, Valheim developers. Keep in mind, I'll only be showing footage from early gameplay so that I do not spoil any of you who might want to try the game out for yourself. The main objective of the game is to get into Valhalla, which is like the heaven of the Viking medieval time, Norse mythology shit. Think about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but a better game and cheaper. So it's been about 20 days since the game released. Keep in mind this game is still in early access. I've played over 60 hours of the game for only $20, and the game file size is 500 megabytes. That's correct, 500 megabytes. God, what the hell are you doing? Activision, what are you doing? Why is Call of Duty 200 gigabytes? 200 gigabytes is such a turnoff. Like, I look at it and I'm like, do I really want to download 200 gigabytes on my hard drive and just like play a little bit of Warzone and just move on? This game is 500 megabytes and you can just get in and log out whenever you want. And I think that's one of the more stronger aspects that's pulling a lot of non-survival game players in. It's the fact that it's so easy to jump into. You don't need to know a lot of survival knowledge. You don't need to know anything about water at all because there's no water, there's no thirst system. There's food, health, and coldness. And coldness only comes from being in a certain biome. And food, you can eat most of what you can find. Everything you forage in force are edible. Some foods give more health, some foods give more stamina, which adds a strategic element to what you eat. Where you eat more stamina boosting foods so you can mine longer, or do you want to go for health boosting foods that will help you fight against more stronger opponents? And what's one of the most painful elements of common survival games? Games like Stranded Deep, The Forest, Rust, Minecraft, all those games, all those survival games out there. If your tool breaks, you actually need to go through the hassle of repairing that. You need to get the resources to repair your tools. Not in Valheim. Valheim, all you gotta do is go back to your base, have a workbench there, have a forge there, and you can just repair everything free of charge. No extra charge. When you buy something and you just pay that fee. That's it. Other survival games, you buy something, you gotta pay an extra fee. It's like you have Disney Plus and you wanna watch a movie. And you gotta pay another $30. What's the point of the fucking subscription then? Let's dive a little bit more deep into Valheim. The main element of the game is combat. You have a multitude of weapons to choose from. Swords, spears, daggers, knives, bows. You have a shit ton of weapons to choose from so you can live your own Viking fantasy. Now, the actual combat itself is fairly plain and simple. It's not a God of War. You don't swing things crazily everywhere. It's not very hectic. It's normally very linear combat. You have a shield, you have a sword, or whatever your weapon is. You parry his attack, you attack back when he's stunned, you get a crit damage, you kill him. Or you switch to a bow. You go stealth option first. Before they're notified of your presence, shoot them in the face. Try to kill them in one shot or inflict as much damage as possible before having to go in with a sword. And since we're on the topic of combat, let's talk about what you'll be fighting throughout your journey in Valheim. So I don't know about the Norse mythology creatures. I don't know anything about the history of Vikings. I don't know if they actually encounter any of these creatures in history or in Norse mythology. You have grey dwarves, you have trolls. Trolls I feel like believable, big giant ugly things. You have normal things like wolves, hogs, deers, and then you have more of the mythical things like ghosts and wraiths and blobs. What did Vikings fight blobs in the past? I want to see evidence of a blob. But anyway, other than the normal creatures that you'll encounter throughout your journey, you also have bosses. Now, there are currently 5 bosses in the game, 6 if you include a special secret one, and you have to fight them in order, starting with the first one, which is the deer. The next 4 get harder and harder, except for the 4th boss. The 4th boss is stupidly easy. Like, the 4th boss seriously needs a buff. Now, upon defeating every single boss, they'll drop certain items. And they'll also drop trophies, which are like their heads, basically. Upon obtaining their heads, you can then go back to the place you spawn, which is sort of like an altar, and you can place their heads on the stone like hedges. You will then be able to use the power of said bosses. The first one gives you the ability to use less stamina while you're running and jumping. The other ones give other abilities, but I will not get into them. Also, I think the stamina is kind of an issue in this game. I feel like stamina is an issue in survival games in general anyway, but at least this game has potions that you can brew that can help you gain stuff like stamina regen. I felt like most of the time I was just waiting for my stamina to regen, which left for quite a lot of boring parts. Like I just stood there using my phone for like 30 seconds until my stamina finally regened. And you can't climb anything if you don't have stamina. You can't walk up it and you can't sprint up it. You have to jump up it. So if you're climbing a mountain and you run out of stamina, you're going to come down. On the topic of these cliffs, why does my screen shake when I'm coming down this hill? Please, it gives me anxiety. Every time my screen shakes, I think something is about to come after me. And since there are 5 bosses, there are 5 biomes. Each boss you kill, you unlock a new biome. But I wouldn't call it unlock because technically you can go into these biomes without killing the bosses. It's just that you'll most likely die. You start off in the meadows and then your second biome and third biome, fourth biome, fifth biome. Each biome you unlock grants you a new slew of resources. You go from the starting hide armor to bronze armor, then iron armor, and then so on and so forth. Oh, I also haven't told you about the recipes. Now in Minecraft, you know when you pick up something and it says recipe unlocked, but you can still craft it because you can just Google it? That's not like Valheim. You can't craft it if you've Googled it. You need to actually obtain the resource, then you'll be able to craft it. You unlock these slew of resources, and it's the most satisfying thing ever. When you're stuck and you don't know how to progress and you're just making a bunch of shit to try and gain all the crafting recipes, and when you finally get it and you just gain like 10 of them at once, oh, it's so satisfying. Now, here are some of the bad things about Valheim. I'm gonna straight up say it, I fucking hate the weather system. You have day-night cycle, you have a bed you can sleep in that turns from night to day. And then you have the rain. You can't see shit, and it lags like shit. And then you have the fog system that comes right after your nice rain. Yeah, you still can't see anything. And then you have the wind. If the wind is going in the opposite direction of where you want to go when you're on your boat, yes, there is boats. Spoiler alert. You will not be able to move your boat unless you go at the speed of a snail. Here's what I do like about the weather and the rain. When it does rain, it actually causes higher tides and higher waves, which apparently can actually capsize your boat. It's never happened to me, but I heard it can happen, which would be really cool. And since we're talking about transportation, you have a few transportation options, you know? You have the boats, you have your legs, and that's about it. A very good amount of transportation systems. Oh, actually, you have a wagon. It's pretty good, you know. You have a wagon, you put your shit in there. I think the wagon's actually the most broken part about the game. Your inventory has a certain amount of space and it has a certain amount of weight to it. The cart does not. You can put however much you want to put into that wagon, and you will not feel the weight of the wagon. You also have skills, which increase over time as you use certain elements of your character. Sprinting, jumping, there's sword skills, polearm skills, whatever skill. Every weapon has a different skill. Tree cutting, mining, whatever. And every time you die, you lose one of every skill, I think. So that's annoying, but it's not that bad. Unless you're at like level 40 sprinting, and then you die. And then you die again. And then you die again. And then you die again. And you'll never go above 40 ever again. Well, that's Valheim for you. The other very bad part about this game is how much you have to grind. Out of the more than 60 hours that I put into the game, I bet you about 50 of them are actually just spent grinding. But that's often what happens with survival games, right? The grind. You gotta get your materials, you know, you gotta get all your stuff together to make better armor, to upgrade better armor. There's also taming, which I didn't get much into, but I know you can do. I didn't get into it because I didn't want to see the animals that I tamed die. You know, that would break my heart, so I don't really want to do that. Okay, I think that sums up most of Valheim. I didn't really talk about structures in different biomes. You can go adventuring if you want, but I felt like they weren't as rewarding as they should be, so I didn't really talk about much of them at all. Overall, what do I think of Valheim? For $20 in the current state, $20 is super cheap, and I would definitely buy it again. It's totally worth your money. If you're a survival games kind of guy, this game will probably be for you. If you're into Norse mythology, this game will be for you. If you're into Viking shit, this will be for you. At the end of the day, Valheim does what it's doing very well, and I can't wait to see what else it has in store. It has already released the 2021 roadmap, and I'm excited to see what they do. I'll definitely be looking at this in the future, and maybe when it fully releases, I will cover it again. Valheim for me gets a 8 out of 10, mainly because I felt like a lot of the parts of the game are too drawn out, they're too grindy at times. You spend a lot of time doing the same thing, going to the same places, grinding the same material, and it sort of gets boring after a while. But 8 out of 10 is still a very good score, and I definitely still recommend you go and get it. Anyway, if you have tried the game, what do you think about it? I want to hear your thoughts. Tell me in the comments below. If you enjoyed the review, do me a favor, hit the like button. If you want to see more in the future, hit the sub button, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.